2 hours after I buried my son, I stood in my kitchen, staring at a plate of lasagna someone had left on the counter. I didn't remember who brought it, didn't remember their face or their condolences, or the way they probably squeezed my shoulder like that would fix anything. The house was finally empty. Everyone had gone home to their own lives, their own intact families, leaving me with casserole dishes and silence. My wife Ellen sat at the kitchen table, still wearing her black dress, staring at nothing. We hadn't spoken in an hour. What was there to say? Brain hemorrhage, they told us. Sudden. Tragic. Nothing anyone could have done. That last part kept echoing in my head, louder each time. Nothing anyone could have done. I'm a mechanic. I fix things. I solve problems. When something breaks, you trace it back to the source and you figure out why. Engines don't just explode. Brakes don't just fail. There's always a reason, always a sequence of events that led to the catastrophe. But everyone kept telling me that sometimes bodies just give out. I didn't believe it. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but Ellen looked up at me with those hollow eyes, and I thought maybe it was the funeral home with some paperwork detail or the cemetery about the headstone. I picked up. Mr. Brennan. A woman's voice, tight with tension. Speaking. This is Grace Mitchell. I taught your son at Riverside High. I'm so sorry for your loss. I'd met her at the funeral. Young, maybe 30, with nervous energy and red-rimmed eyes. She'd sobbed through the entire service. Thank you, I said, the automatic response. Mr. Brennan, I found something. About your son. About what happened to him. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. I need you to come to my office at the school, right now. Tonight. My chest tightened. What kind of something? I can't tell you over the phone. Please, just come. Come alone. Then she added, and her voice cracked. And don't tell anyone. You could be in danger. I stood there with the phone in my hand, my heart hammering against my ribs. Ellen was watching me now, alert for the first time since we'd lowered Tommy's casket into the ground. Who was that? Tommy's teacher. She wants me to come to the school. Now? David, it's almost 9 o'clock. She said she found something. About what happened to him. Ellen stood up, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not hope, something harder. I'm coming with you. She said to come alone. I don't care what she said. If there's something about Tommy, I need to know. I didn't argue. We grabbed our coats and headed out to my truck. The drive to Riverside High took 15 minutes through empty streets. The school was dark except for a few security lights and one window on the second floor, the teachers' offices. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. What if it's nothing? Ellen said quietly. What if she's just, I don't know, feeling guilty or something? Then we wasted 20 minutes. But I didn't believe that either. Grace Mitchell's voice had been threaded with genuine fear. I parked in the empty lot and we walked toward the main entrance. The security lights cast long shadows across the pavement. My breath misted in the cold November air. The door was unlocked. We stepped into the dark hallway, and I was about to call out Grace's name when I saw movement near the stairwell. Someone was standing there. Not Grace Mitchell. I froze. It was Ryan, my daughter Ashley's husband. 28 years old, cocky smile, expensive suit even at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. He'd been at the funeral, of course, standing next to Ashley, but I hadn't really looked at him. Now he was here, in the empty school, blocking the stairs to Grace Mitchell's office. David, he said, and his voice was too calm, too measured. You shouldn't be here. What the hell are you doing here? The question came out harder than I meant it to. Ashley called me, said you got some kind of weird phone call. She was worried. He took a step forward, hands in his pockets like this was a casual conversation. This isn't a good time for you to be running around following conspiracy theories. Get out of my way. David, listen to me. You're not thinking straight. You just buried your son. You need to go home, be with your family. My family? Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. His teacher called me 30 minutes after his funeral and told me she found something. Ryan's easy smile faltered. Behind me, Ellen grabbed my arm. David, I can't let you go up there, Ryan said, and now his voice had an edge to it. I'm sorry, but I can't. Can't or won't. Same thing. I stared at him, this man who'd married my daughter 2 years ago, this man who worked for the superintendent's office, this man who suddenly showed up at an empty school at 9 p.m. to stop me from talking to a teacher. The pieces weren't fitting together yet, but I could feel them trying to snap into place. How did you know I'd be here? I asked quietly. Ryan's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Ashley didn't call you, I continued, my voice getting steadier, harder. The only people who knew I was coming here were me, Ellen, and Grace Mitchell. So either Grace called you, or someone's been listening to my phone calls, or you already knew Grace was going to contact me. David, you're being paranoid. Which one is it? A door opened upstairs. Grace Mitchell's voice echoed down. Mr. Brennan, is that you? Ryan's hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Don't. I looked down at his hand, then back up at his face. I'm 52 years old. I've spent 30 years working on engines, rebuilding transmissions, wrestling with machinery that weighs more than most people. Ryan goes to the gym and wears expensive suits, and probably couldn't change his own oil. I pulled my arm free so hard he stumbled backward. Stay here, I told Ellen, then headed for the stairs. Ryan moved to block me again, but Ellen stepped between us. Don't, she said quietly, and something in her voice made him stop. I took the stairs 2 at a time. The second-floor hallway was dark, except for the light spilling from one open door. Grace Mitchell stood in the doorway of her classroom, pale and trembling. Mr. Brennan, thank God. I wasn't sure you'd come. I heard voices. It's fine. What did you find? She glanced past me toward the stairs, then quickly pulled me into the room and shut the door. Her desk was covered with papers, file folders, a laptop. Her hands were shaking as she reached for one of the folders. I teach junior English, she said, her words tumbling out fast. Tommy was in my 3rd period class. He was a good kid, quiet but smart, always turned in his work on time. Her voice broke. 3 weeks ago, he missed class. When he came back the next day, I asked if he was okay. He said he'd had a headache, bad enough that he went to the nurse. She opened the folder and pulled out a sheet of paper. A hall pass, dated 3 weeks ago, signed by the school nurse. Time out, 10:47 a.m., time in, blank. He never came back to class that day, Grace continued. I marked him absent. But here's the thing, I checked the attendance records. The main office shows him present for the entire day, all periods, no nurse visit logged. I stared at the hall pass. Maybe they just forgot to log it. That's what I thought. But then, she pulled out another paper, another hall pass, different date. This was 2 weeks ago, same thing. Tommy left for the nurse. Never came back to my class. Attendance shows him present all day. And Mr. Brennan, when he came back the next day, he looked terrible, gray, sweating. I asked if he'd seen a doctor. He said the nurse told him it was just stress from schoolwork. My mouth had gone dry. Stress. And then last week. She pulled out a 3rd hall pass, and her hand was shaking so badly the paper rattled. Monday. 4 days before he collapsed. He asked to see the nurse again. I wrote him a pass. That was the last time I saw him alive. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of her desk. I didn't think anything of it at first, Grace whispered. Kids get headaches. But after he died, after they said it was a brain hemorrhage, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So today, during the funeral, I came here. I checked the nurse's logs. Mr. Brennan, there's no record of Tommy visiting the nurse. Not once. Not any of those 3 times. That doesn't make sense. I know. She opened her laptop and turned it toward me. So I checked the security cameras. We have cameras in every hallway. I pulled up the footage from those dates. Watch. She clicked play. The video showed the second-floor hallway, timestamp from 3 weeks ago. At 10:49 a.m., Tommy appeared on screen, walking slowly down the hall, one hand pressed to his temple. He turned toward the nurse's office, out of frame, and disappeared. Grace fast-forwarded. He doesn't come back, not to class, but look at this. She switched to a different camera view, the nurse's office, from an angle that showed the door. At 10:51, Tommy entered. At 10:53, he came back out. He was walking even slower now, unsteady. And then, at 10:55, someone else entered the nurse's office. A woman in business clothes, expensive heels, dark hair pulled back. "That's Michelle Parker," Grace said quietly, "the assistant superintendent's wife." She clicked to the next file. 2 weeks ago, same pattern. Tommy goes to the nurse, leaves looking worse. Michelle Parker shows up minutes later. And then the last one, Monday, 4 days before Tommy died. This time, Tommy barely made it to the nurse's office. He was leaning against the wall, moving like each step took all his strength. He went in, came out 10 minutes later, and this time, when Michelle Parker arrived, she wasn't alone. She was with another woman, younger, blonde, wearing hospital scrubs. "That's Diane Matthews," Grace said, "the school nurse. She's Michelle Parker's sister." The pieces snapped together with a click so loud I could almost hear it. "Tommy had 3 medical emergencies," I said slowly. "The nurse saw him all 3 times. Someone erased the records. Michelle Parker was there each time, and the nurse is her sister." Grace nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I think they knew something was wrong with Tommy. I think they knew he needed real medical attention. And I think they covered it up. Why? Because if they'd called 911, if they'd sent him to a hospital, there would have been an investigation, medical records, liability. The school could have been sued. Michelle's husband, James Parker, the assistant superintendent, he's up for the full superintendent position next month. A negligence lawsuit would destroy that." I couldn't breathe. "I made copies," Grace said. She grabbed a flash drive from her desk and pressed it into my hand. "Everything. The hall passes, the attendance records, the video files. It's all on here. I was going to go to the police, but Mr. Brennan, these people have connections. James Parker's brother is on the city council. Michelle's father is a retired judge. I'm a second-year teacher. So why call me? Because you're his father. Because you have the right to know what happened, and because—" She glanced toward the door again, lowering her voice. "Because I think they know I have this. I think that's why your son-in-law is downstairs." Before I could respond, the window exploded. Glass shattered inward and something heavy hit the floor and rolled. Not a rock, a brick with a piece of paper wrapped around it, held by a rubber band. Grace screamed. I grabbed her and pulled her away from the window. My heart was slamming against my ribs. I looked out through the broken window but couldn't see anyone in the dark parking lot. The brick sat in the middle of the floor, surrounded by broken glass. I picked it up carefully and unwrapped the paper. Block letters, black marker, "Keep your mouth shut or the next one won't miss." "Oh, God," Grace whispered. "Oh, God, oh, God." "Get your things," I said. "You're coming with me." "I can't. Now." She grabbed her purse and her coat. I shoved the flash drive in my pocket and we headed for the door. My mind was racing. Someone had been watching. Someone knew Grace had called me. Someone was willing to throw a brick through a window as a warning. We reached the stairs. Ryan was gone. Ellen stood at the bottom, looking up with wide eyes. "What happened?" she called. "I heard breaking glass." "Later. We need to go. Now." We rushed down the stairs and out to the parking lot. I scanned for any movement, any cars, anyone watching, but the lot was empty. Just my truck and Grace's little Honda. "Follow us," I told Grace. "Don't go home. Not tonight." Where am I supposed to go? Anywhere but home. I gave her my phone number. Call me in an hour, we'll figure this out. She nodded, terrified, and ran to her car. Ellen and I got in the truck. My hands were steadier now, adrenaline sharpening everything into focus. What the hell is going on? Ellen demanded as I started the engine. I pulled out of the parking lot, checking my mirrors every 3 seconds. Tommy didn't just die. Someone let him die, and they're covering it up. Who? The assistant superintendent's wife, the school nurse, maybe others. Tommy went to the nurse 3 times in the last month. Each time she sent him back to class without treatment. They erased the records. They knew he needed help, and they didn't give it to him because it would have opened the school up to liability. Ellen's face had gone white. That's murder. It's negligence, criminal negligence, if we can prove it. The flash drive? Security footage, records, everything Grace could find. I pulled out my phone and handed it to Ellen. Call Detective Morrison, the one who came to the house after Tommy died. Tell him we need to talk to him. Tonight. Ellen dialed. I kept driving, kept checking the mirrors, kept thinking about that brick through the window. A warning. But warnings only work if you're scared enough to listen. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Ellen hung up. He's off duty, but he'll meet us at the station in 30 minutes. Good. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then Ellen said quietly, Ryan was there. I know. How did he know you'd be at the school? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. My phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. This is Grace. I'm at a motel off Highway 9, room 143. I texted back. Stay there. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Another text came through from a different number. I didn't recognize this one either. Ellen read it aloud. You're making a mistake. This won't bring Tommy back. Think about your family. No name, no signature. Just a threat disguised as advice. Block it, I said. Ellen's hands were shaking again. David, what if they come after us? Then we go to the police now, tonight, and we hand over everything. We don't give them time to cover this up any more than they already have. And what about Ashley? I'd been trying not to think about that. My daughter, 26 years old, married to Ryan, working as a paralegal at a firm that did contract work for the school district. My daughter, who'd been distant at the funeral, who'd barely looked at me, who'd spent most of the reception talking quietly with Michelle Parker. We'll deal with Ashley later, I said, but my voice came out harder than I meant it to. The police station was a squat brick building with 2 bright fluorescent lights and the smell of burnt coffee. Detective Morrison met us in the lobby. He was in his 50s, stocky, with tired eyes and a rumpled shirt. Professional. Gentle, even. Now he just looked confused. Mr. and Mrs. Brennan, I'm sorry to meet again under these circumstances. What can I do for you? We need to talk, I said, privately. He led us to a small conference room and shut the door. I put the flash drive on the table between us. What's that? Evidence that he was denied medical treatment multiple times. Evidence of a cover-up. Morrison's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind his eyes. That's a serious accusation. Look at the flash drive. He picked it up, turned it over in his hand. Where did you get this? Tommy's teacher, Grace Mitchell. She pulled security footage and compared it with attendance records. She found discrepancies. What kind of discrepancies? Tommy went to the school nurse 3 times in the 3 weeks before he died. Each time, the nurse sent him back to class without proper treatment. Each time, the visits were erased from the official logs, and each time, Michelle Parker, the assistant superintendent's wife, showed up at the nurse's office right after. Morrison set the flash drive down. Michelle Parker is a volunteer coordinator. She's at the school all the time. At 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, in the nurse's office, right after my son visited. Could be coincidence. 3 times. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then he said carefully, Mr. Brennan, I understand you're looking for answers. That's natural. But you need to be careful about making accusations without— Watch the footage, I interrupted. Look at the records. Tommy had a medical emergency, and instead of calling 911, they covered it up. That's negligence at minimum, maybe manslaughter. That's for the district attorney to decide. So you'll investigate? Another pause. Longer this time. Morrison glanced at Ellen, then back at me. I'll look at what you have, but I need to warn you. If this is just inconsistent paperwork and some security footage of people walking through hallways, it's not going to be enough for charges. It's enough to start asking questions. Maybe. But questions upset people, Mr. Brennan. Important people. People with lawyers. I leaned forward. Are you telling me not to pursue this? I'm telling you to be prepared for how difficult it's going to be. Morrison picked up the flash drive again. I'll review this. I'll pass it to the appropriate people. But you need to understand, even if everything you're saying is true, even if we can prove negligence, the school district has sovereign immunity. The individuals involved might face charges, but the district itself is largely protected. I don't care about the district. I care about the people who let my son die. Morrison nodded slowly. I'll be in touch. It wasn't the response I wanted, but it was something. We left the station and drove home in silence. The house was still full of casseroles and sympathy cards. I wanted to burn all of it. Ellen went upstairs. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, thinking about Tommy, 16 years old, quiet kid, good grades, worked part-time at the hardware store, wanted to study engineering, had a girl he liked but was too shy to ask out. Normal teenage stuff, normal teenage problems, and then headaches. Bad enough to leave class, bad enough to see the nurse 3 times, bad enough that he looked gray and sweating when he came back. I'd asked him once, maybe 2 weeks ago, if he was feeling okay. He'd said he was fine, just stressed about midterms. I'd believed him, because parents believe their kids when they say they're fine. We want to believe they're fine. But he wasn't fine, and someone knew and did nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from Ashley. Dad, we need to talk. Tomorrow morning, I can come by the house. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, why was Ryan at the school tonight? The response came fast. What are you talking about? He was there, when I went to meet with Grace Mitchell. He tried to stop me from going upstairs. Another long pause. Then, I don't know what you mean. Ryan's been home with me all evening. I took a screenshot of our text conversation and sent it to Morrison with a message. My daughter is lying for her husband. Thought you should know. Then I blocked Ashley's number. Ellen came back downstairs. She'd changed out of her funeral dress into jeans and a sweater. Her eyes were red but dry. I can't sleep, she said. Me neither. She sat down across from me. What are we going to do? Fight. Against who? The school? The superintendent? Our own daughter? If we have to. Ellen looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Her grip was strong, steady. Okay, she said. Then we fight. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Grace Mitchell. Someone broke into my car at the motel. They took my laptop bag, but they didn't get the copies. I have backups. I texted back, stay where you are. I'll call you in the morning. But I knew, sitting there in my dark kitchen with my wife's hand in mine, that morning was going to bring more trouble. Because whoever threw that brick through Grace's window, whoever broke into her car, whoever erased those medical records, they weren't going to stop. They had too much to lose. The only question was how far they'd go to keep this buried, and how far I'd go to dig it up. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Tommy walking down that hallway, one hand pressed to his temple, moving slower each time. I saw him going into the nurse's office, coming out looking worse, and I saw Michelle Parker, expensive heels clicking on linoleum, showing up like clockwork to make sure the records disappeared. At 5 a.m., I gave up pretending and went downstairs, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and the flash drive. Ellen found me there an hour later, watching the security footage for the 4th time. She poured herself coffee and sat down. See anything new? Same thing, but worse each time I watch it. I paused the video on Tommy's face, frozen mid-step. Look at him. He's in pain. You can see it. The nurse had to see it too. She did. She saw it and sent him back to class anyway. I closed the laptop. Morrison said he'd call today, but I don't trust him to actually do anything. Why not? Because he's a cop in a small city where the assistant superintendent's brother is on the city council and his wife's father is a retired judge. Because people like that don't go down easy. And because everyone I've talked to so far has tried to make me stop asking questions. Ellen was quiet for a moment, then said, "What about a lawyer? What about them? If the police won't investigate, maybe we need to file a civil suit, force them to turn over records, make this public." It wasn't a bad idea. That takes money. We have the house. We could take out a loan if we have to. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. She'd been quiet yesterday, shut down with grief, but now there was something harder in her eyes, something sharp and angry. "You're ready to go to war," I said. "They let our son die, David. They covered it up. They're threatening the teacher who tried to help us. And our daughter—" Her voice cracked. "Our daughter is protecting them instead of us. So yes, I'm ready for war." My phone rang. Morrison. I put it on speaker. "Detective." "Mr. Brennan, I reviewed the flash drive. I have some concerns." "What kind of concerns?" "The security footage shows your son visiting the nurse's office, but it doesn't show what happened inside. The attendance records show discrepancies, but those could be clerical errors. The hall passes prove Tommy left class, but not that he was denied treatment." "What about Michelle Parker showing up right after each visit?" "She's a volunteer. She's allowed to be at the school." 3 times? Right after Tommy's visits? That's not suspicious to you?" "It's not enough for charges, Mr. Brennan. I'm sorry, but it's not." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "So you're not going to investigate?" "I didn't say that. I'm saying we need more evidence. Concrete evidence. Medical records from the nurse, witness statements, something that proves intent." "How am I supposed to get that?" "You're not. That's our job. But it takes time." "Time," I repeated. "These people covered it up. And you want me to wait while you fill out paperwork." "Mr. Brennan, I understand your frustration." "No, you don't." I hung up. Ellen stared at me. "So what now?" "Now we get the evidence ourselves." "How?" I thought about it. The nurse's office would have medical records, computer files, maybe physical files in cabinets. Everything Grace Mitchell found was from public areas, hallways, attendance logs, but the real proof would be in the records they'd tried to hide. "We break in," I said. Ellen blinked. "Into the school?" "Into the nurse's office, tonight, after hours. That's illegal. So is letting a kid die and covering it up." "David!" "I'm not waiting for Morrison to do nothing. I'm not waiting for lawyers to take months. These people are already trying to bury this. If we don't move now, they'll destroy whatever evidence is left." Ellen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "How?" I pulled up the security footage again. "There are cameras in the hallways but not inside the offices. If we can get in through a side door, avoid the main hallways, we might be able to get to the nurse's office without being seen." "Might? It's better than nothing." She rubbed her face. "Okay, but we need help. Someone who knows the school layout. Someone who can tell us where the records are kept." Grace Mitchell. I called her. She answered on the first ring, voice tight with fear. "Mr. Brennan?" Are you safe? I think so. Nobody's tried the door, but I'm terrified to leave. I need your help with something. Tonight. I explained the plan. Grace was silent for a long time, then said, "That's insane." I know. If we get caught, I'll lose my job. Maybe face charges. I know that too. But if we don't do this, they get away with it. Tommy gets away with it. Everyone moves on except us. There's a side entrance near the gym, Grace said quietly. It's alarmed, but the alarm is old. Sometimes it doesn't arm properly. And the nurse's office is on the first floor, east wing. I don't know what kind of records they keep there, but there are file cabinets. Probably a computer. Can you meet us there, tonight? 2 a.m.? Another long pause. Yes. Good. And Grace? Thank you. I hung up and looked at Ellen. You don't have to come. Try to stop me. The rest of the day crawled by. I tried to act normal, but normal had shattered when I watched that security footage. I kept thinking about Tommy, walking down that hallway, trusting that the adults around him would help, trusting that the nurse would make him better, trusting that his parents would keep him safe. We'd all failed him. At 6 p.m., Ashley showed up. I watched through the front window as she parked in the driveway. She sat in her car for a few minutes before getting out, like she was gathering courage. I opened the door before she could knock. Dad. She looked nervous. Good. Can we talk? No. Dad, please. I know you're upset. Upset? I almost laughed. Someone at that school let him die, and your husband was at the school last night trying to stop me from finding out the truth. So no, Ashley. We can't talk. Her face flushed. Ryan wasn't at the school. I told you he was home with me. You're lying. I'm not. He was there. I saw him. I talked to him. He physically tried to block me from going upstairs. So either you're lying, or he's lying to you, or you both know something you're not telling me. Ashley's jaw tightened. She looked so much like Ellen when she was angry. Same expression, same stubborn set to her shoulders. But right now, I couldn't see my daughter. I could only see someone protecting the people who'd let Tommy die. Ryan works for the superintendent's office, Ashley said carefully. He was probably there on official business. At 9 p.m.? On the day of my son's funeral? Maybe there was a security concern. There was. Grace Mitchell was about to expose what happened to Tommy, and your husband tried to stop her. That's not, Dad, you're not thinking clearly. You're grieving. You're looking for someone to blame. I found someone to blame. Multiple someones. And you're defending them. I'm trying to protect you. Ashley's voice rose, sharp and desperate. Do you understand who you're accusing? Michelle Parker's husband is about to become superintendent. Her father was a judge. Her brother-in-law is the city attorney. These are powerful people, Dad. They will destroy you. So you're taking their side. I'm taking the side of our family, of keeping us safe, of not throwing away everything on some conspiracy theory. It's not a theory. I have evidence. Ashley's eyes widened slightly. What evidence? And there it was. The real reason she'd come. Not to apologize, not to support us, to find out what we knew. Get out, I said quietly. Dad, get out. You're making a mistake. If you go after these people, they'll bury you. And when they do, don't come crying to me. I won't. I stepped back and started to close the door. Tell your husband he should have tried harder to stop me last night. I shut the door in her face, watched through the window as she stood there for a moment, then turned and walked back to her car. She sat behind the wheel for a long time before driving away. Ellen had been listening from the kitchen. She came out, pale and quiet. That's it then, she said. We've lost her. We lost her before. We just didn't know it yet. At 1:30 a.m., we dressed in dark clothes and drove to Riverside High. Grace was waiting in the far corner of the parking lot, her Honda tucked between two trees. She looked terrified. We can still call this off, she said when we got out. No, we can't. I'd brought tools, a screwdriver, a pry bar, a flashlight, basic stuff. I wasn't a career criminal. I was a mechanic trying to prove his son had been murdered. Close enough. We moved quietly across the parking lot to the side entrance Grace had mentioned. The door was metal, heavy, with a standard alarm panel visible through the window. Grace was right. It looked old. The kind of system installed 20 years ago and never updated because school budgets don't prioritize security. I tried the handle. Locked, obviously. But when I examined the door frame, I could see the alarm sensor wasn't properly aligned. There was a gap. Maintenance issue, I muttered. Good for us. I used the pry bar carefully, wedging it between the door and frame. The lock was standard commercial grade, not designed to stop a determined break-in, just slow one down. After 30 seconds of steady pressure, something inside clicked and gave. The door swung open. No alarm. We stood frozen for a moment, waiting for sirens or lights or security guards. Nothing. The building was dark and silent. Go, Grace whispered. We slipped inside. The hallway smelled like industrial cleaner and old textbooks. Emergency exit lights cast a red glow, just enough to see by. Grace led us through a series of hallways, avoiding the main corridor where cameras would catch us. The nurse's office was in the east wing, exactly where she'd said. The door was locked, but it was just a standard interior lock. I popped it with the screwdriver in under 10 seconds. Inside, the office was small and utilitarian. Examination table, sink, locked medicine cabinet, desk, file cabinets. A computer on the desk, turned off. Ellen, watch the door, I said. Grace, check the computer. I'll take the files. Grace powered on the computer. It's password protected. Try the basics. Password, nurse, the school name, variations. While she worked on that, I went to the file cabinets. They were locked too, but these locks were even cheaper. I forced the first one open and started pulling files. Medical records, organized by last name. I found the B section and flipped through. No Brennan. I checked again. Nothing. Grace, are student medical files usually kept here? Should be. Any injury, any medication given, any parent contact, it should all be documented. But Tommy's file was gone. Removed. Destroyed, probably. I moved to the second cabinet. More files, but these were older. Records from previous years. I kept searching, getting more frustrated with each empty folder. Got it, Grace said suddenly. Password was Riverside 2024. Not exactly creative. She started clicking through files on the computer. I came around to look over her shoulder. The nurse's database was simple. A spreadsheet with dates, student names, complaints, treatments, and parent notifications. Grace filtered by date. 3 weeks ago, the day Tommy first came to the nurse, she scrolled through entries. Here, Thomas Brennan, headache, advised to rest, released back to class. No parent notification. Keep going. The diner was called Lucky's, which seemed ironic given our current situation. We took a booth in the back corner. Grace looked exhausted and terrified. Ellen looked determined. I probably looked furious. We ordered coffee and spread out the flash drives and the papers I'd photographed. For the next hour, we went through everything. The medical database was damning. Tommy's visits were documented, but minimized. Each entry made it sound like a minor complaint, easily dismissed. But when you read them together, when you saw the pattern, it was obvious something serious was happening. And the timeline was the smoking gun. The incident report said Tommy collapsed at 1:47 p.m. during PE, but the security log showed the ambulance arriving at 1:35 p.m., which meant he'd actually collapsed at least 15 minutes earlier, probably during study hall. They backdated the incident report, Grace said. They're trying to change when it happened. Why? Ellen asked. Because study hall is supervised by library staff, not PE teachers. If Tommy collapsed in the library, there would have been witnesses. Students. Maybe someone who saw him exhibiting symptoms earlier. But if he collapsed during PE, outside on the field, fewer witnesses. Easier to control the narrative. I pulled out the unfinished incident form I'd taken from the nurse's office. Diane Matthews tried to file a medical liability report. Someone stopped her. Michelle Parker, Ellen said. Had to be. Maybe. Or the superintendent. Or someone higher up the chain. I took a sip of cold coffee. The question is, can we prove it? We have the records, Grace said. We have the timeline discrepancy. We have video of Michelle Parker showing up after each of Tommy's visits. But do we have proof of criminal negligence? Proof that they knowingly let him die? Grace hesitated. I don't know. This is all circumstantial. It suggests a cover-up, but proving they knew Tommy was in serious danger and chose not to act is going to be hard, Ellen finished. My phone buzzed. Text from Morrison. Need to talk. Call me ASAP. I called him back. He answered immediately. Mr. Brennan, I just got a call from school security. They're saying you broke into Riverside High tonight. Please tell me that's not true. I was looking for evidence. Morrison swore quietly. You can't do that. You can't break into a school and steal records. Everything you took is now inadmissible. I don't care about a trial. I care about the truth. The truth doesn't matter if you can't prove it in court. You just handed them a perfect defense. They'll say you fabricated evidence, tampered with files, planted false records. The security footage came from their own cameras. The medical database is on their own server. I didn't fabricate anything. It doesn't matter. You obtained it illegally. No judge will allow it as evidence. You just destroyed your own case. I closed my eyes. He was right. I'd been so focused on getting the evidence that I hadn't thought about what came after. What should I have done? I asked quietly. Waited for you to do nothing? Waited for them to destroy the evidence themselves? You should have let us handle it the right way. There is no right way when the people I'm accusing have power and connections and money. They would have buried this. You know it. I know it. So I did what I had to do. Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then, they're pressing charges, breaking and entering, theft, possibly more. Let them. Mr. Brennan, let them press charges. Let this go to court. Let them explain in front of a judge why they're so desperate to prosecute a grieving father who just wanted to know why his son died. Let them explain the timeline discrepancies and the missing records and Michelle Parker's convenient appearances. Let's make this public. That's not how this works. Then tell me how it works, detective. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like powerful people commit crimes and get away with it unless someone forces the issue. I'm trying to help you. Then help me. Look at what I found. Look at the evidence. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me my son wasn't left to die. Another long silence. Then Morrison said, Send me what you have. I'll review it. But David, you need to turn yourself in. If you run, this gets worse. I'm not running. I'm right here. If they want to arrest me, they know where to find me. I hung up. Ellen and Grace were both staring at me. They're pressing charges, Ellen said. Not a question. Yeah. Good, she said, and her voice was hard. Let them. Let's make this as public as possible. Grace looked like she might cry. I'm so sorry, this is my fault. I should never have called you. No, I interrupted. You did the right thing. You tried to help. The only people at fault here are the ones who let Tommy die. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call from Ashley. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, a text. Dad, please talk to me. Ryan said you broke into the school. They're going to arrest you. Please don't do this. Her response came fast. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. He had a brain hemorrhage. It wasn't anyone's fault. He had symptoms for 3 weeks. The nurse saw him multiple times. They did nothing. That's someone's fault. You don't know what you're talking about. I have the medical records. I have the security footage. I have proof they covered it up. Another long pause. Then, "You stole those records. They're not admissible. I don't care about admissible. I care about the truth. The truth won't bring Tommy back. No. But it might stop them from doing it to someone else's kid." She didn't respond after that. Grace's phone rang. She answered, listened for a moment, then hung up, pale. "That was Principal Harrison. He wants me in his office first thing Monday morning. He knows I helped you." "What are you going to tell him?" "The truth. That I saw evidence of a cover-up, and I did what I thought was right." "You'll lose your job." "Probably." She gave a shaky laugh. "But I've been teaching for 2 years. I can find another job. You can't get your son back." We sat there for a while longer, drinking bad coffee and trying to figure out our next move. Finally, Ellen said, "We need a lawyer, a good one. That'll cost money we don't have. We'll figure it out. Maybe we can find someone who works on contingency. This case is high profile enough that it might attract attention." It was a plan. Not a great one, but better than nothing. At dawn, we left the diner. Grace went back to her motel. Ellen and I drove home, knowing the police would probably be waiting. They weren't. Not yet. The house was quiet and undisturbed, but as we pulled into the driveway, I saw someone sitting on the front porch. Ashley. She stood up as we got out of the truck. Her eyes were red from crying. "Dad," she said, "please, can we talk?" I looked at her for a long moment. My daughter, 26 years old, smart, ambitious, married to a man who worked for the people who'd let her brother die. Standing on my porch at 6 a.m, trying to convince me to stop fighting. "No," I said, and walked past her into the house. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. Ellen stopped, turned back, but I kept walking. I couldn't look at Ashley right now. Couldn't see her without seeing Tommy, remembering every time I'd trusted the wrong people to keep my kids safe. Ellen came inside a few minutes later. "She's gone." "Good." "David, she's our daughter. She chose her side. She's scared. She doesn't understand what's happening." "She understands perfectly." Ellen didn't argue. Maybe she agreed. Maybe she was too tired. Either way, we dropped it. I spent the rest of the day organizing the evidence we'd collected, making copies, backing everything up to multiple drives, preparing for the fight ahead. At 3 p.m., there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find 2 uniformed police officers standing on the porch. "David Brennan?" "That's me. You're under arrest for breaking and entering and theft of property. You have the right to remain silent." I let them read me my rights. Let them cuff me. Ellen stood in the doorway, her face pale but composed. "I'll call a lawyer," she said. "Good. And Ellen, make sure the media knows about this, all of it. The arrest, the evidence, everything." She nodded. The officers led me to their patrol car. As we drove away, I looked back at the house. Our home, where Tommy grew up, where he'd taken his first steps and learned to ride a bike and done homework at the kitchen table, where he'd come home 2 weeks ago and told us he wasn't feeling well, and we'd told him to get some rest. We'd believed him when he said he was fine, just like the nurse had, just like everyone had. Because it was easier than facing the possibility that something was really wrong. But I was done taking the easy path. I was done believing people who told me to stay quiet, to not make trouble, to accept that my son was gone. I was done being the grieving father who went away quietly. Now I was just angry, and I was going to make sure everyone knew why.